Hello and welcome back to Mad Git Radio for episode number 12. I'm joined as always by the Simon to my Garfunkel. It's Paul.
How's it going, guys? Hope everyone's good, having a good time, ready for talking some Ninth Age.
And guess what, guys? It's an old school episode tonight. It's just Paul and I. Just like the good old days, good old episode number 1. It's just your good old hosts, Paul and Andrew.
Yeah, basically we've insulted everyone to the point where no one wants to come on anymore.
Nobody wants to play us, nobody wants to talk to us. Apparently the dwarf hate is getting quote-unquote cancerous. I don't agree with that, but that's what they said.
Completely justified.
It is. No one likes dwarves. But this isn't an episode about dwarf hate, unfortunately. Paul, what were we talking about in this episode?
So, we're going to kick off the episode talking about the English Championships, which Andrew was at a couple of weeks ago, as was Edward, another member of the Wildling team. So we're going to have a wee chat about that, see how you did. And then we're going to go on and we're going to talk a little bit about Carronade, which is probably Scotland's biggest miniature wargaming convention, which is coming up, where we will have the Ninth Age being represented by the Scottish Wildlings. We're going to have our own little stall, little table there promoting the game. And then we're going to finish up, just talk about the Ninth Age project in and of itself and how it can be promoted. Is there anything that we can do better to actually help grow the game? And yeah, take it from there. So that's the plan.
And all the shenanigans in between.
Oh yeah, I dare say there'll be some rambles.
Grab some paints, grab some minis, and listen to the show.
Yeah, so let's kick off. Talk about the English Championships.
English Championships.
Take us through it, Andrew. You and Edward made the treacherous journey south.
We did. It was good fun. We went down on the Friday. Met up with the guys on the Friday night. I got a practice game in against John Turner of Scotland DTC fame, whereby John inserted himself in me and did not lube up. And then we played Ninth Age.
Is this the Bombardier list that you were running?
It is, yeah. So John took a variant of, for all you dedicated Mad Git listeners out there, it's essentially the same list that he took to the Scottish Championships, where he had 3 big units of Bombardiers, a big bus of the armoured ogres, Paul, what are they called?
The Mercvets?
No.
Or Bombardier Bruisers?
Bruisers, big bus of Bruisers, some darts of Bruisers, 3 Kin-Eaters, that's right, 3.
Nice.
And yeah, so I really didn't want to play this list on the day, so I thought if I play John, it'll be a good test, and I probably, like Karmic Gods maybe, that won't let me play him over the tournament. So I played like dog shit in this game, so I'm not going to bore everyone with the details, but essentially the game was decided turn 1 because I stupidly threw my skirmishers out in front of my battle line and put my wizard in there, because that's one of the things I like to do when I feel like I've got an advantage in shooting. What I forgot is that John has pyromancy and shitloads of shooting. So turn 1 he took off my wizard, which wasn't good. Turn 2, a unit of 3 Tuskers charged a unit of 3 chickens and took them out in a turn. I'm not sure that should have happened, but it did.
Did he just roll really well for impacts?
No.
Okay.
He had great weapons.
Okay. But he's T5, right?
He's T5, yeah.
Yeah, which helps. And then he's striking back at strength 6.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you do any major damage back?
Nope.
No? Okay, you just flubbed the roll then.
just got ran over.
Okay.
And then the other chickens spent the entire game running into Kin-Eaters, which he just kept throwing in front of them.
Yep.
And Kin-Eaters are T5 and unbreakable.
Yeah.
Which isn't
They're
great.
4 wounds?
Yeah, something stupid like that. Can't stop them either.
They're more than you think, yeah, they're good.
So yeah, I killed one, just ran into the next one. Killed him, ran into the next one. And then he ate my war machines. So I gave up, I think, turn 5. But it's always good. Like, we were actually saying this in an episode or 2 ago. I always feel more confident going into a tournament after you've had a warm-up game, because normally I play dreadfully in the warm-up games. So I felt like everything was going to plan at that point.
Well, at the Scottish Championships, you played Tim in your warm-up game.
I did, yeah.
You talk about in one of the previous episodes how you totally misdeployed your war machines.
Yep. There's parallels there.
Yeah, you kind of get rid of the cobwebs.
Yeah.
Get out all your kind of silly mistakes. So, yeah. I don't do that. I actually play quite well in my warm-up game.
Okay.
Don't turn up for the actual
like dog shit in the air, okay.
Yeah. John's, like you say, John plays for Scotland in the ETC, so...
He did, yeah. I don't think Yeah, John is a very good player. I don't think I should have just given him 20 though, which is what I ended up doing. But it was good.
It's funny, there was an image that I think it was Jack Austin was playing his warm-up game.
Uh-huh.
Was he playing against, I want to say he was playing against Casimir or something?
Yeah, he was playing against Casimir. Yeah.
And it was quite funny because I'd obviously shared it on Twitter. And in the background is you and Ed studiously studying for the following games. And it was pointed out in the kind of Scottish 9th Age chat, and we had a good chuckle at that because you guys looked like you were stressing. But that was that before or after you played John?
That was before, believe it or not. Because Ed hadn't finished going through all the lists.
Right, okay.
And I hadn't either. So when we arrived, there wasn't odd numbers. There was a couple of guys playing, so we just sat down, and Mike Sylvester was playing against Luke Tranter. So we were kind of talking to them while they were playing and going through the lists. And then Tim showed up, and then I got bored of going through the lists because I hate homework. So I went and played John, but Ed stuck it out and got all his lists done. That was us desperately trying to figure out what all this shit does.
Did you see that part in the chat?
I didn't know.
You didn't. You just totally bypassed it because it was funny. There was someone suggested turning it into a meme, and like there was going to be like a prize for the person that came up with the best one.
Was there any contenders?
There was one because it was only Guillermo that actually did it, which was quite funny, and it was just a close up of you with like a speech bubble being like "I'm done" written in it. So you turned up, you did a bit of studying, had a bit of a warm up game. So
yep.
Feeling fairly confident.
Feeling good. Yeah. So my first round game was against Peter Bedson, and I'd never met Peter before, and he was bringing Kingdom Equitane, and his list was essentially a massive big bus of Knights of the Realm with the Banner of the Last Charge, a big unit of Grail Knights, 2 units of Peg Knights, a very scary Hippo Lord, 2 units of Outriders, and a medium-sized unit of Knights Aspirant, and a Damsel. Obviously the draw was done beforehand, so I knew what I was playing against. So it's obviously a run at you list, and I was bringing, in case anyone doesn't know, my kind of shooty Empire list, which was a big block of spear, 2 wings of crossbows, some skirmish and militia, the same ones that got incinerated by John, a scoring unit of knights, just a dart, 2 units of chickens, 4-man units, Prelate with all the Locket shenanigans, Martial BSB with 2 orders, Alchemy Wizard Master, 2 units of Rangers, 2 units of Riders, 2 mortars, and 2 rockets.
It's a lot of stuff.
It's a lot of stuff, a lot of shooting. So the matchup was always going to go one or two ways. Either Peter tried to run at me and I just took him off the shooting, or my shooting didn't turn up, Peter hits me and he starts taking my stuff off. So I turned up on the day, and the scenarios and things weren't they were done on the day, so we didn't know. And I had the great joy to find out that Peter was actually a very nice guy.
Good. It's always a bonus.
It's always a bonus. So we had a good laugh. And the scenario was King of the Hill. And the deployment was, we'll go for something like Frontline Clash. It wasn't, but we'll go for that.
Cool. Let's do that.
It was one of the ones that looks like Frontline Clash.
Okay.
This is why you listen to Mad Git Radio, folks. All this pro-tactica and insight. So basically, I think Peter made a big mistake in deployment, and one of his first drops was his big unit of realms, and he put them on a hill, and across from the hill there wasn't much terrain, so it meant that I could just drop, and I basically put my shooting line in front of that realm unit, because that realm unit alone is 800 points. Okay. So if I take that off, it means that he has to really push for points. And then he put his units of Grail Knights on the opposite flank. So it meant that I knew that his Damsel was probably going to go over there. So it means I could basically isolate half of his army and take that off and then face the other half. So I dropped for first turn. And then the first turn, my shooting dice really turned up. I took all but one of the Knights of the Realm off. So it was just a champion stood there on the hill wondering where all his boys went. I kicked the shit out of a unit of Peg Knights as well, I think. So it went into Peter's first turn and, like a quarter of his army was gone. It was pretty brutal. So Peter decided just to go balls in and he pushed, and my shooting just turned up again and I took most of his stuff off. Poor Peter. It was always going to go one or two ways, like especially with me with Alchemy Magic.
Yeah. He did a lot of damage. the combination of really good, effective magic with that many shots coming at you is horrible.
Him being T3 as well meant that I was,
yeah.
hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s. It was pretty pro.
That's nasty.
In the latter stages of the game, so basically you lost both units of Peg Knights. You eventually lost the Realm guy because I sent the writer after that single might to get the points.
Fuck's sake.
The Aspirants and one of the units of Pegs did make it into the big block, but they didn't do anywhere near enough damage. And the big block basically ate them. So he was left with his Lord and his Grails, and in the latter stages of the game, he decided to go in for it and push, and then he deployed the Green Knight, and the rockets one-shotted him.
Fuck's sake.
Peter could not make any ward saves whatsoever, and he was really like.
I was going to say, doesn't he have like a 4 pages or something?
Yeah, like in that matchup, he needs his ward saves to be ticking over, even just average. Just like save a couple knights here and there. But he just wasn't getting any ward saves whatsoever. So I one-shotted the Green Knight, and then the rockets took 3 wounds off the Hippo Lord. So he was left with 1 wound, and then he thought, no, fuck this, we're getting soldiers. So the Hippo Lord went and hid behind the hill, and the Grails pulled out. So in the latter stages of the game, I managed to get the Knights into my terrain piece for the objective as well. So it finished 17-3 me.
Nice. Solid win, game 1.
It was, yeah. It was very good. And Peter did a little blunder in deployment, I think, but he made the right decision in the latter game, because I think if he'd kept on pushing, I would have just taken those units off and it would have been at 20.
Yeah. I mean, how far away... You said he dropped his big knight bus on the hill. How far away was that from?
That was like on the line.
So was it like maybe that wasn't going to give him a charge turn 1? He was still going to be too far?
No, yeah, he was still going to have to push. And because he dropped that first, I kind of knew what was going, and then he dropped the Grail second, so I definitely knew what was happening then.
Yeah.
And then I dropped everything, so I was going first. Everything was in range, and it was like the perfect Alpha Strike opportunity.
Oh, okay. I was thinking maybe he was thinking if he was close enough to charge, and then with having the reroll, because he would have been on the hill, that would just made it a little bit easier. But yeah, if he still has to spend a turn actually moving up, then it's not so great.
Yeah, see, this is where the crossbows really come into their own as well, because you can be, that extra 6 inch between the crossbows and the handguns just means you can sit further back.
It's another round of shooting basically. It gives you, so
exactly.
It's pretty good, and you've got firing in 3 ranks with accurate. It's nasty. It's just a lot. You are going to be getting wounds through, especially against T3, like you say.
But I mean, the game was really starting to go against Peter, and he made the right decisions in the latter game, because I mean, it finished up 14-6 before the objective. Yeah. Which is, that's respectable considering how.
If you're going to lose, it's a chunk of points you're still taking away from the game. So.
Exactly, yeah, and that Alpha Strike was really good. Like, that was just good rolling as well. That's not got anything to do with skill. That was just dice turned up. So to salvage that out of a game that was right from the off tipped against you was good play. And he was unlucky not to contest the objective at the end, because basically my 5-man unit Knights were just hovering around where I needed them to go, and as soon as he pulled the Grails out, they jumped in the objective.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so it was 17-3, which was a really good first round result for me.
Yeah, definitely. How did you like not knowing about the objectives until the game?
Yeah, I like it. We've talked about this with Gareth, I think, when we had him on, that I think people can get too kind of fixated with their first round draws and these kind of things. Mm-hmm. I think you'd be a fool not to look at lists, because I think that's absolutely what you need to do, especially big tournaments. You need to go through the lists. You need to understand what players are taking. But I think people can get too absorbed in it. So basically what I did was I went through Peter's list. I knew what everything did, and I just didn't think about it anymore. And not knowing the deployment or the objective helps you do that, because you end up not making a battle plan for a game that you've not even turned up for yet.
I mean, that's it. I mean, if you go in with a very specific idea, and then it comes to deployment or the terrain isn't what you hoped it would be, then it's knackered.
Yep.
And then it can be hard to adjust. So trying to be as flexible as possible is probably the best strategy to go for.
Yeah.
So that's a strong start. How was your game 2?
So my game 2 was against an absolute asshole of an opponent. So I got drawn against this jabroni Ed Murdoch. I don't know if you've heard of him.
I've heard about him. He's dodgy.
He's notorious in the scene. So we drove, 3.5 hours to get to Stockport and we got drawn against each other round 2. So it was quite funny. But actually, it was going to be good fun, because Ed and I had actually played a game, I think a week before, and we hadn't managed to get it finished, and it was with our tournament list, so we were quite eager to see how it would go. And Ed was bringing Orcs and Goblins, and he was basically bringing the jankiest Orcs and Goblin list I've seen in a long time. And it was all chariots, basically 3 units of feral orcs with bows to fill out core, some mobile spellcasters, a goblin bunker at the back, and then all the random, your wrecking teams and your pump wagons and stuff like that. It's a really solid list. I really like it. And similar to my game against Peter, Ed was always going to run at me, so it was always just going to depend on if the dice turned up in the first couple of phases, so I can do enough damage to then push. The terrain wasn't as good against Ed though, because there was a big wood in the middle, so that kind of hampered me. And then the objective was Spoils of War, and the deployment was Marching Column. So the deployment wasn't too bad, because we both had shed loads of chaff, so we basically just deployed them, and then I dropped for first turn. But Spoils of War is really hard for my list, because I need to stay stationary in the first couple of turns to do the shooting, and that essentially lets the opponent just jump on the objectives. So Ed ran at me, I shot him, I didn't do enough. Ed passed a couple leadership tests, which, it wasn't hugely unlikely or anything like that, but that was just a couple moments where if I'd managed to get a couple of things to flee, it means I can fire at other things, but nothing was running that day. Nothing. Fucking brave goblins.
Was that testing on, generals discipline?
So
he's
generals leadership 8, but he's got an 18-inch bubble because of the crown, which is really good. But he was even stuff like, I think he made 6 leadership 6 saves, which I'm not moaning, that's, because there's some games where he'll not make any of them, and that's not, that's not average either. But it just meant that stuff like his chariot units, I need to be killing them and then panicking them off so I can shoot the other stuff.
Yeah.
And they just weren't running. So it meant that a lot of his stuff was able to get in, and he managed to grab one objective. Sorry, he managed to grab 2 objectives. And later stages of the game was me trying to push to get points. And in the last turn, I killed him off one of the objectives. But the rules for Spoils of War are, when you kill a unit that's holding one of the objectives, you can place it, but you can't place it in one of your units to then pick up. So this was turn 6, so you pick up the tokens at the start of your turn.
Yeah. So
because I killed him off at turn 6, I couldn't then pick it up. So he still had one objective, which won him the objective for that one. So, he was winning on points anyway, so it was a 13-7 on points, but then he got the objective, which took it to a 16-4 to Ed.
Okay.
It was good fun. It's always good fun playing against Ed, and it was always going to be, a kind of something similar to that. I'm actually surprised it was that tight, because, Ed's list does a lot of damage on the charge.
Yeah.
I did manage to take bits and pieces off, which definitely helped, but it could have gone horribly wrong, because the shooting wasn't particularly good.
Had you thought much about playing Ed? You obviously, when you go to a big event, you can't hope that you play against people that you've never played against before. And since you guys were driving down, I wonder, did you have a thought in the back of your mind I don't really want to play against Ed's list, or had you really considered it much?
Ed and I had talked about it a lot beforehand, and we'd actually talked about it in the car on the way down, and we kind of came to the conclusion that, depending on objective, well, we kind of thought that I would always have a bit of the nudge, because I have the tools to take down his list with shooting, which is the one thing he really struggles against with his list. And stuff like the panics and that if I shoot the flanks off, they panic, they run away, and then he's just really left with the ferals, because they're the only things that don't run. So probably on paper I should have had a little bit of a nudge, but the objective wasn't ideal, because Ed was always going to move forward, which means he can get the objectives early on. And just the not being able to do enough damage with the shooting. That's the risk you take when you take a shooty army.
Doesn't really stand up to a close combat army, actually, once it reaches you, so that's the risk.
Exactly, yeah. But the big block was able to carve out some points at the end, like my big block. So it took out some ferals and I think a chariot or something that was wounded, that was kind of hovering about the place.
Yeah, the 3 points is a big swing, so even getting the 6 points out of it is good, because like what we were saying before, in your first game, it keeps your tally ticking over.
It does, yeah, as long as you're picking up points. To be fair, I think Ed failed a couple of charges as well, turn 2, 3. So if they'd got in, I think it could have been, even worse for me. So yeah, no, it was good fun though. It was always kind of gonna go like that. So
third game, last game of the day, feeling pretty positive overall.
Yeah, so that was 21 points out of 2 games, so that was pretty good.
Yeah.
So my third game was against Tim Ross, who was bringing Sylvan Elves. Tim had, for core, basically just Dryads and a unit of Archers. He had 2 units of the Heath Hunters, a 3-man unit of Tree Bush guys, what are they called?
Digit Beasts?
That's the ones. An Eagle, a unit of Wild Hunters with a really scary Stag Lord in there, some Blade Dancers with his BSB, and then a unit of Sentinels with his Wizard in there. So this was the corner one, whatever that is, where you can't deploy in the corner.
Right, yeah. It's one of the new ones?
Yeah. Dawn Assault. And I dropped quite early on because there was a big hill on one side of the table, so it basically allowed me to deploy my infantry across the hill and basically shut off that section of the table. And Tim had dropped his Kestrel Knights across from him in a wood, and he sat for ages and he looked at the table, and I was really hoping that he was going to do what he did, and he decided that he would try and push me.
Right.
I was like, ha 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 ha, silly elf. So he basically put all his combat units across from me, which was a mistake. Turn 1, took off the Kestrel Knights, smashed up the Hunters. Turn 2, finished off the Hunters.
Jeez.
There was a couple the Huntsmen left. They made, I think, turn 3, they got in with the Stag Lord into the big block.
Right.
So the first turn of combat, challenge for the champion, because all his Lord stuff's all about on the charge.
Right, okay.
So he spunked all his Lord stuff off on the charge. Yep. Turn 2, the Prelate got in, started smacking him about the place. But 3 turns in a row, I rolled a 1 to wound.
Jeez.
Which is annoying. So he kept sticking in the combat. He eventually did go down, but it allowed him time to get the Dancers in.
Okay.
Because basically I shut off everything else. And Dancers got in, and I really underestimated them.
I was going to say, what kind of size of unit did he bring?
I mean, it was a decent size. I think it was maybe about 15 Dancers.
Okay.
12 to 15. Really underestimated them. They got in and they just minced the heavy infantry block.
Yeah, they're really good.
I kind of thought that it'll hurt, but I've just got more attacks and they've not really got anything like armor or defensive wise, so I'll just outgrind them. But they can do the dance for the extra attack, and they just blew me away.
Yeah, it's the striking really well, really fast, and just kind of taking away your attacks.
Yeah, exactly. But this was flags this game as well.
Okay.
So basically what Tim had done is put his Archers and his Dryads in the corner away from me. So realistically, there was no way I was going to get them unless I got lucky with chickens and stuff late game. But he basically destroyed the heavy infantry unit. The characters managed to run away because I blocked them with I basically just threw units in the way of this Dancers unit and to stop him getting the heroes. But one of my units of Rider got MVP this game because they managed to get round the flank. The Heath Hunters charged them. They beat up the Heath Hunters in combat.
Nice.
They killed them, and then they got round and they started threatening his Sentinel unit. And actually, sorry, the Heath Riders I think panicked through the Sentinels unit, who fled. They failed their check.
Jeez. Because
they were out of BSB. And then I moved up, and then I charged them, and they fled again. And basically, they ended up running off the board, I'm sure. Oh no, sorry, the Wizard killed himself with a miscast. That's what it was. So there was stuff going very wrong for Tim, to be fair.
Horrible.
But yeah, his Dancers unit managed to get back a shed load of points in the latter games because it was looking really bad.
Right.
And also I could not stop Totemic Beast for love nor money.
Was it just one of these things you were saving your dice to stop that one spell?
Exactly,
and
I just couldn't do it. So I think he got 2 or 3 Totemic Beasts. And against Peter, he had 4 Totemic Beasts on at one point.
What?
Because he got Shamanism as well, and it was the one spell that I was trying to stop because by that point I'd done a lot of shooting damage, so I didn't mind if he got Chill and Howl off. But I just couldn't stop it, and he was just eating War Machines. And basically the same thing happened against Tim, that the Beast got on and just started eating War Machines. So he managed to get a lot of points back in the later game, and obviously I lost the secondary as well because all of his pushy units weren't scoring. So it was 15-5 to me on points, but I lost secondary, so it ended up 12-8 to me.
So that secondary, I'm right in saying it's just who kills the most scoring now?
Yes, yeah.
Right, okay. So you had only killed the hunters? The cav unit with the general?
They're not even scoring, I don't think.
Oh, right, shit.
I think his only scoring was the units of dryads and the archers.
How many units of dryads did he have? Were they all just like min-sized units?
Yeah, I think he definitely had 2 units of like 8 dryads, I think, basically just for
Core.
Yeah, for core and for scoring purposes. But yeah, so this was the second game against shamanism as well, which, spoiler, shamanism comes up a lot later on as well. It was super popular at the event.
It's a really good lore.
Yeah, it's really
I
good.
like it. It's really strong.
It's
I'm
good
very
against,
sad they've
yeah.
taken it away from warriors.
Especially in like the UK where shooting is pretty popular. It's a solid lore to take to something like a big tournament because you're going to play against shooting armies.
Yeah, I think Totemic Summon's got to be about the best spell in the game.
Yeah, it's very, very good.
The potential to have that many free units on the table for which your opponent gets no points for killing is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's the fact that they're toughness 5 as well, so even your small arms fire struggles to take them off.
Yeah, and you get the breath weapon as well, so they can
Yeah,
try and do damage from range if you can't get quite in with the random movement. Really good.
and the fact that the big one, you drop within, what is it, like 6 of the board edge or something like that, or 10 of the board edge.
I
So
think it's 10 or something. It's quite a chunk of distance.
you can't even do like anti-ambushing, like you can't just cover your board edge because they just drop inside it.
Yeah.
Felix assures me that there's a deployment method with Empire where you can actually stop them doing that, where you basically cover your entire corner.
This is like a conga line.
Well, I'll talk about conga lines in a little bit because I tried to do that and it didn't work against this.
Right, okay.
That's in a future game. But yeah, they're really hard to stop. So basically what I decided was there's no point fanning about with deployment against this, so I'll just save all my dice and stop that, and I'll take Chill and Hell. So I took Chill and Hell, failed to dispel it, so all these total things were running about. But yeah, so that was
That was game 3.
That was game 3. Yeah, I mean.
So how many points were you finishing on after day 1?
So after day 1, so that's 33 points.
That's pretty good. Did you have a kind of goal in mind as to where you wanted to be at the end of day 1?
Not at the end of day 1. I basically set myself the goal that I wanted to be top half of the table by the end of the event. I was kind of there or thereabouts. Because Tim was able to get a lot of points back in the later game, I think I left a couple points out there. I don't know what I would have done differently. I think maybe because the big hill was good because it let me deploy along it, but it also meant that because of the angle he was running at, only half my line could shoot at the dancers coming in.
Yeah.
So they were essentially able to get in pretty, much full health because they're skirmish and hard target.
I was going to say they've got some good anti-shooting rules.
Yeah.
So you were focusing them out. It wasn't, you just didn't underestimate them. You did try and deal with them before they actually reached their line.
Yeah, later games. So the priority was get rid of the Kestrels and the Wild Huntsmen because they're obviously faster.
And they hit harder.
Yeah, and like the Kestrels, there was only 3 of them, but they're the kind of thing that if they get behind you, they're just a nightmare.
Super fast.
So because everything else took quite a lot of shooting to get down, I wasn't able to, put as much pressure on the dancers as I would have liked. And my writer were off, trying to win MVP of the tournament, trying to kill wizards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I couldn't really chaff him, and I'd saved the Rangers in reserve in case stuff like Totemic Beasts, which actually they did need to go and kill. So yeah, I think I left some points out there, but fair play to Tim. He managed to harvest a lot of them in the later game.
So after one, did you guys go out and go for a drink and have dinner?
Yeah, it was really good. So I was sharing a room with the lovely David Johnson, and we basically went back to the hotel room, got changed, and then all the Scotland guys, we all went out for dinner, which was glorious. We all were like dying at the end of it, and I kind of thought everyone would want to go back out for a drink, but everyone was kind of tired, so they all pulled back. But I went back along to Element Games, and I sat and had a drink with the one and only Henry P. Miller and Jack Austin. We sat for a few hours, and
nice.
We wrote Henry's list for the upcoming Danish tournament, where he's taking VC.
Awesome.
So Jack and I had obviously had a few drinks by this point. We're like, nah, you gotta take Banshees. Come on, Jerry. It's all about screaming horrors.
What time did the venue actually close?
It was open quite late. I mean, I think I stayed there till, I think, 1.
Okay.
And
they had a bar?
Yeah, so Element has a bar. Element was actually just an awesome venue, just to shout out to them. I was really impressed. I also spent lots of money in their shop, which I shouldn't have done, but I did anyway.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, the bar was really good, the staff were really nice, and they basically said that they would stay open as long as there was service. So, I mean, there were still guys sitting playing games and drinking when I left.
Cool.
Yeah, there was a few sorry faces in the morning, but
that sounds good.
It was really
I like
good.
I like the look of Element Games. I've never been, but just from like videos and Facebook and website and stuff, it does look like a really good venue.
I would 100% go back.
Nice.
It's so easy for us as well, because it's only like 3 hours, but it's easy to get on and off the motorway.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely be going back to Stockport.
Cool. So you were raring to go day 2?
Yeah. So late on in the end of day 1, the draw got put up for the next day, and I got drawn against the one, the only Tim Botnick.
Nice.
So Tim and I are both the coaches for the ATC team, and we like to indulge in some little mind games with one another. And essentially, we all did our predictions for the team, and I had put that I would get 17 points off Tim before objective, and he put on mine that he would get 16 because he would let me to keep that extra point to myself. So there was a lot at stake here. And I'd been very vocal about how shit I thought Tim's list was, because his list was like just filled with crap. It was like he was
running beast herds, right?
Yeah, it was beast herds. It was a couple units of mongrel raiders, lots of dogs, 3 cyclops units, 2 jabbers, a shaman, no BSB. That's right, nice. No BSB. Lots of the razor tusk guys. And then some briar beasts. It was just like, I was looking at the list and I was like, I'm just going to kill that. There's nothing you can do. I'm just going to take that off. So I was way too confident going into this game. And I forgot the fact that Tim is an amazing player.
Yeah, he's very good.
So I completely misplayed this as well, because I was looking at his list and he had shamanism and he had the wood. And I forgot about the wood, the seed of the dark forest.
Yeah.
But I was looking at his list and I'm like, I'm just going to shoot that off. Because in my head I was thinking, he's either going to corner in the opposite corner from me and take a draw or a small loss, or he's going to try and run at me and I'll take him off. So I deployed in the corner. I thought I was being really fucking smart. I got all my rangers, my skirmishers, and I did like the conga line round the board edge. And I was playing next to Kevin Weaver, who's a very nice man. He also plays Empire. He's a listener to the podcast.
Nice.
So shout out to Kevin. And I was deploying these skirmishers and I was like saying to him, I was like, oh, look at me, I'm so fucking smart. Like, doing this. I'm such a dickhead. So Tim did not play like I thought he would.
Okay.
And he tried to outshoot me.
Right.
Which I scoffed at first.
Yeah.
And then he won the shoot off. I dropped.
He dropped for first turn?
No, I dropped for first turn.
Right.
I did basically hee-haw. I deployed in the wrong corner. I deployed for this hill again, which ended up screwing me because the war machines were kind of limited, because they had to deploy behind the battle line.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want them deploying out with, the line, because they would just get picked off. So they were kind of limited to what they could see. One mortar misfired and then broke, which is never ideal. The rockets, because they're just so fucking good, they actually performed. They almost killed the Cyclops in one turn, which was good.
Nice.
But the crossbow fire just didn't do anything, because he deployed these big unit of mongrel shooters across from me in skirmish in the wood, and then he had shamanism as well, so I just wasn't doing damage, and he was just out shooting me. So this wasn't going well. And at that point, at the end of turn 1, I should have realised that, and I should have just pushed, because there's nothing in his list that can stand up to the chickens in combat, or even the big block. So I should have just pushed at him and just taken him. Because even if he gets the Cyclopses into the big unit, I can help them out with other units, and I think I just outgrind them anyway, because they're only toughness 5. But I didn't do that because I'm an idiot, and I was really adamant that my shooting list should outshoot people, so I tried to keep on shooting them. And then the jabbers got in, and fucking hell, they're fucking broken. They're so good. I misunderstood the jabber walk rule. So you know how it's got that aura of madness?
Yeah.
Where it -1 leadership?
Yeah.
So how that works in reality is that if a unit's within 6, it's -1 leadership. If your general's unit is within 6 as well, it's -1 leadership. So he put his jabber in between my units because I couldn't shoot it off. I probably should have shot it off, but it survived. And it got in. So it would put my general at -1 leadership, so he's down at 8. And then it put the unit he was trying to give the buff to another -1. So they took, I can't remember how, right? But I was at leadership 7. And then I was leadership 6. And I didn't know what was happening, and it was bad, Paul. And then stuff started running away. The crossbows ran away.
It's the worst when shit happens and you don't know what's happening until it's too late.
I was like, it was turn 3, and I was looking at the table, and like both crossbows had disappeared. Oh, by the way, the totem beasts are back. They're eating my war machines. The big block's just standing there unmolested because he's not shooting the big block. He's taking out everything else. And the chickens were sitting in the back line because I decided that I wasn't going to try and push. I was just going to wait. I'd pushed out the scoring knight unit to sit on the objective because it was hold the centre. And a jabber had charged them in the flank and eaten them. So now he had the objective with a unit of mongrels. So he was winning the objective. He was out shooting me. And everything was running away. This was not how the game was meant to go. So I realised too late that I needed to push. And when I pushed, everything just fell apart. And Tim played the first 3 turns excellently. He really punished me for the stupid mistakes I was making. I think he thought that he had the win in the bag. And he just left me ways to get out. It's like the thing that, Furion says, you don't give your opponent chances to get lucky, and like he'd left me a couple charges, like kind of longish charges, and actually not that long. He just left me charges and overruns and stuff like that, and basically the big block managed to get in, and through the rockets and the big block I took out his shooters, a couple of his chaff units, a couple of the cyclopses, and then the chickens pushed up and just started picking up points from the middle of the field. So it actually finished 10-10 on points, unbelievably.
Wow. It
should never have been that close. But then Tim had held the objective in the middle for longer than me, so he got the objective. So it finished 13-7 at Tim.
Wow. Sounds like a pretty crazy game.
Oh, it was super crazy, and it was really good fun. I love playing against Tim, so it was really good. But I think Tim was quite rightly a bit annoyed at himself in the kind of last half of the game. And we were talking a lot about it afterwards. And I should never have been that close. That should have been a massive win to Tim. Because I didn't deserve to be anywhere near that, because I played like dog shit. And I was looking at the table at the end of that turn 3 and thinking, this is going to be a 16 or a 17 to Tim. At least it could go even higher. And yeah, I think Tim just gave me a couple opportunities which I was able to get off. So
well, that's it. I mean, if your opponent gives you them, you can't not take them.
So. Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was the only option left to me. I had to push or I wasn't getting any points.
Yep. But
I should have just done that from the offset. I shouldn't have tried to shoot. I should have just gone for him.
It's quite a unique list that you have never played against. So, next time you run into it, you think, right, okay, your shooting can actually be pretty effective, but I'm just going to have to run at him.
Yeah, it was just 100% just not appreciating the list. Looking at it and thinking it was dog shit and thinking I would just rock up and shoot it off. And Tim very rightly punished me for being a dick.
I'm right in saying that it's quite a nicely painted Beastard's army he's got.
Beautifully painted.
Yeah.
There was a lot of lovely armies on show, and the lovely Matthew Paris won the Best Painted award for his incredibly painted Orcs and Goblins army. However, I think that Tim's was the nicest army there.
Looked pretty cool. I did see a couple pictures of it somewhere. I think it might have been Twitter.
Incredibly well done.
I think I recognised his list by the amount of dogs. Because I had a conversation with Tim about how he had a warriors list back in the day and it was just all dogs. And I saw that and I was like, there's quite a lot of dogs there. I wonder if this is Tim's.
Yep.
And then I spotted the three Cyclopses and it goes, yep, that's Tim's.
Yep, that's Tim.
But it looked really nice. He did a really good job.
Oh yeah, it was a beautifully painted army. And I think I wasn't the only person that underestimated that list over the course of the weekend, which is why Tim did pretty well.
He did really well.
Yeah, he ended up with 58 TPs at the end of the weekend, which is very good especially for that list, because looking at that list, you're not thinking it's going to be anywhere near that.
Yeah, considering we were kind of talking about this earlier, considering the kind of caliber of players that were there,
Yep.
it was quite an elite group of people playing, so the kind of podium within the top 30 is really good. And like you say, with a list that's somewhat more unconventional, that's even more impressive. So
Yeah, but it was really good fun. It was great to play Tim, but I genuinely don't think it should have been that close. I think Tim should have really punished me in that game, so I think I got very lucky to get the points I did there.
Okay, so who was your last opponent?
So my last opponent was the man, the myth, the legend, Nav Hussein. So Nav brought Orcs and Goblins, and then for this one it was Counter Thrust and Breakthrough. And I love Nav's list. He basically went for a feral theme. So he had a massive block of feral Ed Bashers, 2 or 3 units, I think no, it was 3 units of just feral orcs for his core. He had 2 spiders, 2 wrecking teams, 2 Git launchers, Boar Chariot, and a unit of Goblin Chariots, and he needs characters. It's like, again, it's a run list. He was going to run at me. It was Counter Thrust, which is ideal for me because I can sit deep, and he's always going to run at me anyway. So I actually felt very confident going into this game. This is the thing, like Andrew's overconfidence. This should be a theme that you're all picking up on. Because I thought, like, he's going to run at me. He's not got any armor. He's just got his 6-up board. It's fine. It's cool. I'm not going to be able to panic him, obviously, because he's ferals. So it's cool. I've got this. So, turn 1. Nav drops for first turn, unsurprisingly. He gets it. Okay. Nav runs at me. I shoot Nav. I do a lot of damage, but I don't kill anything. Turn 2. Nav gets Totemic Beasts on. Totemic Beasts eat my war machines. I shoot him, I do a lot of damage, and at the end of turn 2, Nav actually started pulling stuff back. So the spiders pulled back, the units of ferals had pulled back, everything pulled back apart from this big massive block of Ed Bashers. Because I was shooting everything else, I was kind of leaving them. Because in my head I was thinking, if I take everything else off, I'll let that big block get in, and my big block will hit it, and I can kind of get stuff in there as well, because I'll be able to hold them in place while the other stuff can finish them off. And I'd sent a unit of chickens and the knight unit round one side to run over into his deployment zone to get the objective at the end of the game. So I was feeling pretty good. I'm picking up points here and there, but not a huge amount, because stuff like the ferals, obviously you can't panic them off. So he was pulling them back, and there was maybe 5-6 ferals in the units that got away, but that's still points conservation. So he did that, and then the big block got in, and fucking hell, they hit so hard. He overran on his turn into my big block, because I threw the skirmishers out to chaff.
Yeah.
I flanked him with 1 unit of crossbows, essentially just for res, and fighting 3 ranks, so it's alright. And then I managed to clip him with a unit of chickens. And I thought, this is it, game over. This is going to be a massive swing to me. And then we rolled the dice, and fucking hell, they hit so hard, the ferals. We beat the ever-living shit out of each other. And I just won combat by 1. And this was turn 6. And then he made his break check, which was fine, because he was going to make that anyway, because he was re-rolling. But yeah, he didn't have a lot left, and the next round would have actually been really interesting, because he would have lost Born to Fight. I think I would have had him, actually, if it had gone on another round, but it didn't. That was turn 6. And then very cleverly, he threw the spiders out, kind of in a really wide way, to stop the chickens and the knights running over for the objective.
Okay, cool.
With hindsight, I should have just charged the spider with them. In my head I was thinking that I won't win that, and I won't win it in 1 turn. But actually I had nothing to lose last game. I knew the score was going to be tight, but in my head I was like, I'm not going to give him points, but actually it was worth the gamble there, and I should have done that. I should have gone for it. I think I would have won combat, and then he's tested on 6, so it was definitely worth the gamble, and then if I get the overrun I get the objective as well. But I didn't do that, because I'm a pussy. So it finished, got 12-8 to Nav. Yeah, it was 11-9 to me on points, but then Nav got the objective, so it finished 12-8 to him.
So another quite close game then.
Yeah, super close. Nav was really good fun to play against as well, because Nav was staying in the same hotel as us.
Yeah.
So we'd been getting breakfast with him in the morning and stuff and chatting away. So he was super opponent, really good fun, and a lovely game to finish up on because it was very chill, very relaxed. I had a good fun.
So, finishing up, you had a grand total of 48 points.
Yeah. So I finished 43rd.
Out of a pool of 76, which is really good.
I think that's a bit shit, to be honest, but...
Dude, if I went to that event and I got that many points, I'd be fucking ecstatic.
Yeah, so I got 48 tournament points. I got 12,082 victory points.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Which, yeah, I was actually pretty happy with that, because that's a lot, that's a good taken. But, as you might have been able to figure out while listening to all this, the key failure of myself and the list over the weekend was the failure to compete for secondaries. I mean, I lost the secondary in 4 out of 5 games, which isn't good enough. And, you know, that cost me, and it was stupid to say it cost me in every game, because of course it did, but, I mean, it cost me the win against Nav. It turned a draw into a loss against Tim. And in the Sylvanelf game against Tim Ross, you know, that was a point where I could have harvested a lot more points, but I gave that up, so... I think part of that was the list, obviously, because it's quite static, it's very shooty, but also I think that I didn't play aggressive enough when I should have, so that cost me a lot of secondary points, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, if you, obviously, take this for what it's worth, but say you didn't lose those 9 points across the 3 games for the secondaries,
Yep.
that takes you up to 30th place.
Yeah.
So that's a big jump.
Massive jump, yeah.
Yeah, considering that it's what can seem like a fairly small component of each game, it's a huge swing, and you know, that's bumping you up to what, like 13 places.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the middle bracket was super tight. I mean,
it is.
The difference between 22nd place and 43rd was 10 points.
Yeah.
So
it's really tight.
Yeah, it's super tight in that middle of the pack. But yeah, I mean, it was nothing new. It was my big takeaway from the Scottish Championship was my failure to compete for secondaries. So I did hee-haw about that and didn't compete for secondaries. So yeah, I mean, I'm kicking myself a wee bit because I think this list was kind of a bit more aggressive with the bigger units of chickens, so I should have been able to push for them a bit more, but you know, it's lesson learned.
At the Scottish Championships, you had units of 3 chickens, right?
Yep.
So this was the first time you'd really run this list to any like real test.
I don't know.
And a couple of practice games.
Yeah, I don't think I can use that excuse because I mean the core component of the list hasn't changed in something like 30 games. So
sure, but adding that extra chicken, you effectively can use that unit in a different way.
Yeah.
So it's getting to grips with that, and like you say, just adopting that more aggressive style.
Yeah, I mean this is a big thing for me because I'm not an aggressive player. I'm very reactionary and very defensive, and I think that's really starting to hurt me in secondaries. And it's just, you know, this is an experience thing as well. The more games you play, these are the things you pick up on. And I really need to sort that out at tournaments because it's costing me points.
Like we say, it was a big event, but a lot of really good players representing a lot of the different ETC teams.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And just to kind of hammer that home a little bit, if you look at the difference between the 10th and the 20th spot, it's 6 points.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's super, super, super tight. So I think going down there and getting those points and winning the games that you won, I think is really good. And I mean, would it be fair to say that this is probably the hardest event you've been at in terms of caliber of player?
I think, yeah, in terms of the event overall, all the top players were there, essentially. So it was super to go and really test yourself. I mean, I ended up playing Tim and Ed, which was quite funny. But like Tim and Ed are good players, so you know that's fine. Yeah, I think that it was just decisions. It's the kind of thing that you think about later on. Like maybe I should have pushed a little bit harder there, or maybe I should have done that a little bit differently. But this is why we go to tournaments. We go to learn and to test ourselves. So
absolutely. And just to give Ed his due, your
100%
co-conspirator representing the Scottish ETC. Scottish Wildlings, and I suppose Scottish ETC.
Yep.
He did really well. He came 27th.
He did, and he got best in race for Orcs and Goblins, which was
58
quite
points.
the achievement.
Yeah, I mean the list he came up with is, I think it's more Ed's kind of style to what he had at the Scottish event. More aggressive, and it's quite a fun list as well.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of cool units in there. It's not just picking the most stereotypical build. I think he's taken some time to really think about what he wants to run, and he's came up with something that's obviously pretty effective. So it'd be interesting to see if that kind of filters through and other people start running stuff that are actually similar to that.
Yeah, I mean, Ed's like the opposite to me. He's very aggressive in his playstyle. So I think that definitely that switch to a more aggressive, pushy list was, it made him play the way he wanted to play, which is obviously going to get him better results.
Yeah,
and actually,
definitely.
testament to how well Ed did, is he played Tanka round 3 and Tanka 20'd him, and he still managed to get 58 points out of the 4 games.
That's bananas.
So that's really good. I mean, I think Ed should be really proud of his performance over the weekend.
Yeah, that's an average of 14 points over 4 games.
It's really good.
That's really fucking good. I mean, even if he had managed to pick up even 5 points, say, against Tanka, then that would have put him up.
Oh yeah, like he's in the top bracket there.
He's on the top 20 now.
Yeah.
In fact, he's joint 14th.
I mean, the same goes for John Turner, because John played Dan Thomas in the first game, and Dan 20'd John, and John ended up with 63 points there, and he came in 15th. So, there was a number of really excellent performances over the weekend that maybe the scoreboard doesn't really reflect. But that's not to take away the guys that finished, because obviously they're there for a reason. They got the points.
Yeah, it just kind of speaks to the point that it was a really strong group of people.
Yeah.
Quite a lot of really good, experienced players, and it kind of just hammers home the point that tournament results probably aren't the best means for balancing a game.
Yeah.
No, but it sounds like a really good event.
It was super good fun.
Yeah.
And the atmosphere was excellent at Element Games, because everyone was kind of hanging around and talking to each other and having drinks and stuff. The only bad thing was it was so many people to get around and talk to. Like,
yeah.
I briefly got to say hi to Tony from the Fantasy Wargaming podcast, but I never got to speak to Paul.
Okay.
So there was guys there that you wanted to go and talk to, but it's hard to get around everyone.
Yeah, you almost need a week.
Exactly.
Of games.
It needs to be a festival.
Yeah. Oh, dude, someone should do that.
Welcome to Siege 2019.
It's going to be 4 days.
Buckle up. We'll give the winners their due. So in first place was Car Ciesling with Vampire Counts with an amazing 88 points.
I'm really glad you opted to start that, because I had no idea how to pronounce that name, and I really didn't want to offend anyone.
So Car plays for the Danish ATC team.
Oh, nice.
But 88 points out of 5 games, that's pretty phenomenal.
It's bananas.
Yeah. In second place was the fantastic Dan Thomas with Empire Sonstal, representing.
Yeah.
Because Felix and I did pretty dog shit over the weekend.
And just to kind of, people might not realise, but Dan's, we were talking about this earlier, I think this is the 3rd tournament he's podiumed, or he's came top, and this is the 3rd army that he's actually used to get there, so he's obviously like a super good player.
Dan is like the Rain Man of 9th Age. He's insane. He sees things that no one else can see.
Yeah.
I think if he actually like sat down and like really bashed out a list and played an army, really hardcore, that he would just win everything that he touches. But because he's part of the rules team now, he's testing out all the books, and he's testing out units that are apparently underperforming as well. So
yeah, I mean that's probably that's a good sign that obviously they've got people that kind of know what they're talking about.
100%, yeah. And then in third place was Slatch with Demon Legions with 75 points, which was very good as well.
Fourth place was Tom Uden with Undying Dynasties, 74 points. Fifth was Haristo with Dwarven Holes, 74 points. Mikey Newman with Dread Elves, 72 points, was sixth. Seventh was Colin with Saurian Ancients, again at 72 points. Jack Chapman with Vermin Swarm, 71. Chris Legg at 9th with Vampire Counts, 69. And the one and only Tanka at 10th with Warriors with 66.
Yep.
So quite a good spread of armies.
Yeah, decent spread. There was a lot of talk about vampires after the event, just because Carr was able to do so well.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk about this, the kind of the takeaways and the trends, because you've done a lot of statistical analysis because you're smart.
Well, I've not done any stats. I should say that now. It's
No,
really just
we've got to fool the listeners into thinking we know what we're talking about, Paul.
I've done some pretty basic descriptive stuff. So just because it was a fair-sized tournament, 76 players, and I was quite, obviously I didn't go, but I was quite interested in kind of breaking it down and trying to look at any potential trends that we can kind of look at within the 9th Age UK meta. So if you look at the kind of average number of points that each army was picking up, and then you rank them, it's quite interesting. So you've actually got, if you ignore the Demon Legion result, because there was only one player.
Sorry, Slatch.
Yeah, sorry. You did, I mean, you came third. You obviously did awesome.
You've had your moment, fuck off.
Yeah, when it comes to this, we can't really, deal very much with just one player's result. But if you kind of take that away, the top army is actually Saurian Ancients, with an average of about 63 victory points, and that's across 5 players, so that's a decent spread.
Yep.
And then just below that, you've got VC. Again, that's across 6 different players. They were picking up about 62 points. And then, interestingly, third is Empire. Across 8 different players, they were picking up an average of 55, which is a bit of a jump from the top and second.
Between me and everyone else.
But it's, I think the Empire result's a bit of a surprise. I think Saurians and VC, for a while, I think people would have said they're 2 very strong books. But I think with the changes that Empire have had in the last few months, I think that's quite interesting.
I mean, there are...
Do you think that's a fair showing?
I think there's some things you got to take into consideration. Like, Dan is obviously... I think Dan's probably the best player. He's not got the results to, set that in stone, because if he played an army consistently, I'm sure he would. But I think he's probably the best player in the country. And he was playing... He brought Empire to this one, so he did very well. The other top Empire player was Raf, who came in 11th. And Raf is an insanely good player as well. So that kind of not skews it, but offsets it a wee bit. And then we had Kai coming in 20th with Empire, and then the rest of us were kind of middle of the pack. So Kevin Weaver, Felix, and myself, we were all kind of mid-pack, and slightly below mid-pack for me. So I think that the book's in a good place. The book's very strong. I don't think it's at the level of VC and Saurian Ancients, but I think it's definitely below that halfway line. I think it's probably upper middle of the pack, which is a good place to be. I think that's where all the books kind of are aiming for. So
yeah, it's difficult. You're never going to get every book to be on par. There's always going to be stronger books, and that's just a result of what people are playing in your area, and trying to balance that across an entire game is going to be nigh impossible. So, like what we were saying before, I think looking at the kind of results like this, I think it's quite interesting to kind of consider your kind of local scene.
Yep.
But for trying to draw any kind of concrete conclusions as to the wider game is just, you can't really do that. The numbers don't really allow you to do that. So
yeah.
But no, that's quite interesting. I think if you kind of take those 3 armies away, if you look at the next top 3, you're talking Beast Herds, Dwarven Holds, and Highborn Elves. Again, I think Dwarven Holds is in a pretty strong spot.
Yeah.
Highborn Elves as well, I think, are pretty good. What do you think about Beast Herds doing so well at the event? I mean, there were only 3 people playing Beast Herds, so it's not a huge spread, but do you think that book's in a good spot just now?
When people started moaning about Beast Herds, after they've been so good...
Are you talking about Nick?
No, I would never name... I can't... No, I'm not bashing Nick 2 episodes in a row. So, some people were critical of the Beast Herd book in 2.0 update. Not because the Beast Herd book had really changed, but because other books had changed, and there was a general consensus on the Beast Herd forum that because of changes in the rulebook and other army books, the Beast Herds have slipped down quite a lot. At first I completely disregarded this as absolute bullshit, but I think that there's probably something in that argument. I don't think it's to the extent that, Beast Herds are shit and no one plays them anymore. I just think the Beast Herds have slipped down quite a few rungs. I think they're now middle. They're definitely still mid-tier, but they're certainly not anywhere near the dominant force that they used to be. I mean, who did we have playing Beast Herds? We had Luke Williams was playing. He's an excellent player. We had Book Tranter and Tim, of course, Tim.
Yep.
So, I mean, all of them are very experienced tournament players. So that probably helps them, if anything, in their final scores. So, yeah, they've definitely fallen from grace. I'm not convinced that they're a shit book. And actually, I think that if you look at the actual spread, like you were saying, apart from Saurian Ancients, who are definitely the stronger book, I mean, no single book dominated. There's a pretty healthy spread all the way through. So I think that's a really good sign about the overall balance. And you're never going to get it perfect, like you were saying. But
Yeah.
I think that this is a good sign that it's pretty close to being as balanced as you can make it, I think.
What's interesting, all of the Saurian Ancient lists, and as I say, there are 5 of them, all of them are within the top half.
Yeah.
And interestingly, all 3 of the Beastars lists are in the top half.
Yeah.
So the people that brought them did do well.
And you've got to start taking into consideration player skill as well. I mean, there's 5 Saurian Ancient lists as well, is that right? 5?
Yeah, 5.
So the players are Colin Power, Jake Courtine, Mark Greensill, Hugh Scarlin, and Will Goodman. You will recognise all, if not most of those names, and that's testament to the players. So
yeah,
that it definitely has an impact on the standings, and this is part of the reason why we can't just take tournament data as is.
I don't think this is a criticism of players, but I think it's fair to say that on the whole, good players tend to bring strong armies to tournaments.
I agree. I think good players tend to take books which they can, in the nicest possible way, get the most out of.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with anyone doing that.
No, neither
anyone
do I.
can bring anything what they want. I mean, that's perfectly fine. But I think it would be unusual to see a very top class, very competitive player bring a book which, for the most part, is suboptimal or is struggling within the current meta, whatever book that might be.
Yeah, agreed.
So, if you look at the next kind of section of books, it's Sylvan Elves, Infernal Dwarves, and Verminswarm. And then the last kind of group are Dread Elves, Warriors, and Ogres. Not Ogres, Orcs and Goblins. There's a few armies there we haven't mentioned, but that's simply because from the results they weren't represented enough to kind of draw any kind of meaningful data from. So, which is interesting because we were talking about this before, and like from this you might look at it and think, oh, Dread Elves are not particularly good, and yet at the World Championships, which just were there, like Dread Elves were probably one of the top armies.
Yep, and in Germany and the Scandinavian countries they're doing very well.
Yeah, so it's, I think within metas it's quite interesting. There are obviously differences as to what is effective, which I suppose everyone knows anyway, but it's interesting comparing it across countries.
Yeah.
Yeah, overall a very good event, and you would recommend it for anyone?
100%. Yeah, no, really enjoyed it. Had 5 good games. Everyone was really nice, really accommodating. There was loads of people just kind of sitting around having a beer at the end of the day, and it was really nice. And for this was the biggest singles event Ninth Edge has had in the UK yet, and for it to be so big and to have international guys coming in it was surprisingly chill. It was really nice that there was still a lot of kind of camaraderie and joking about and having drinks and stuff like that. It wasn't super serious. Well, it wasn't anywhere where I was playing, but that might be because
if you look at the kind of photographs and stuff for the event, I mean, everyone looked like they were having a good time, and I think that should help kind of assuage anyone's kind of concerns. We've kind of talked about this before, about people that might want to go to a tournament, but they're a little bit worried that they might just find it a little bit too intimidating. So I think as soon as you go to one event and you meet people, and then you go to the next one, and you're like, oh, there's such and such, and I recognise that person from the last event. It's just immediately more welcoming.
And it's really nice because you see the same faces. So like at this one, it was nice to see like all the DTC guys, and then see guys like Dan Thomas who I haven't seen in a while, and even like Tanka. Like I played Tanka at Midlands, and I was chatting to him for a bit. So. And then meeting, Tony from the podcast, it's a great opportunity to meet guys and, to catch up with your pals that you've not seen for a while. So
yeah, absolutely. So, talking about big events, we've got a big event coming up in a couple of weeks.
Flawless segue, Paul. You're getting so good at this.
I was waiting for it. I was like, right, I need to wait until we're talking about something that I can actually tie this in.
Yeah, so Carronade is a big Wargaming show. It's the biggest in Scotland, I think it's fair to say. Claymore held on to that title for a long time, but I think over recent years, I don't think there's much doubt that Carronade's now bigger. It's organised by Falkirk District Wargames Club. It takes place in Graham High School in Falkirk, and this year it will be on the 12th of May. It's essentially like a one-day festival for wargaming, where you have all sorts of systems and miniature sellers and accessory sellers and anything linked to the hobby sellers. Paints, brushes, terrain, all sorts. And you've also got shed loads of demonstration games where clubs come on and put demo games on, and also participation games where people can come and have a go. So we, as the Scottish Wildlands, are lucky enough to be putting on a demo game.
I've actually never been involved with demo games before, so I'm actually quite looking forward to it.
Neither have I. So hopefully we don't screw it up.
Yeah, no pressure.
So it's going to be you, myself, and Martin.
Yep.
We're going to be running it. We've done a kind of cool custom scenario, which will see my empire up against your warriors, and I'll hopefully be receiving reinforcements from Sylvan Elves at some point in the day. If not, it'll be a very short game.
Martin just might what? I'm not getting involved.
Wouldn't even surprise me with Martin, let's be serious. He'd probably just do it to spite me.
Oh, he definitely would.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
He would do that. He would let me kill you, and then he would just kill me.
Yeah, and he'd take all the glory.
Yeah, and then bitch that someone else are rubbish.
Oh, they're not a good book, Paul. They're not.
It should be really good. So it's interesting because there's obviously this is something that people are talking about a lot on the Ninth Age forums just now. It's about promoting the Ninth Age.
Yeah.
And conventions is something that's been talked about in particular. Some of the big events over in Europe and Germany and such that people are looking to maybe take advantage of to try and promote the game. So this is a really good opportunity for us to try and grow the game, certainly in Scotland. I'd say we've been doing pretty well over the last kind of 12 months.
I think we have, yeah.
I think we've grown from about maybe 7 or 8 players to about 12, which can sound a little bit modest, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, if we have a good turnout, at one of the monthly meets, then that's like, 6 tables of people playing Ninth Age compared to half that a year ago, so I think that's really good. So,
100%, yeah. I think it's all about steady growth. It's something we've all talked about in the club chat and things like that. It's just about, if we can convince 1 or 2 guys every, few months to try it. And actually in our group, we all play regularly. At least once a month. At least once a month we all play. So, you've got a group there of, 12 guys that are playing every single month at Common Ground. Mm-hmm. So, it's a fantastic base we've got now. And selfishly, Carronade's a fantastic opportunity for us to try and get new guys to play against. Try and get more guys into the Ninth Age rule set and coming along and giving us games. Yeah. But from a broader perspective as well, it's all about getting people more interested in the project overall. Because I think we need that. We need fresh blood coming in, and we don't want it to get to the stage where it's the same guys playing it. You always want to see fresh faces at stuff like tournaments and stuff. So events like this are a great opportunity to try and attract those kind of people.
Yeah. I mean, how many people came to Carronade last year?
I think there was in the region of 2,000, I think, over the course of the day. I mean, there's companies that turn up for like the vendor stalls, and Carronade equates to 50 to 80% of their yearly income, just because they manage to sell so much. So I think how popular fantasy was at its height, there's a good chance that a massive percentage of those people have played fantasy in the past or know about it. So even if you can convince them to come along, have a wee look at it, and if they're interested, they can have a shot and have a turn and see if they enjoy it, and then that might be enough to convince them to come down to one of our meets and give it a go. And that's how you get new blood in the game.
Absolutely.
But this whole conversation on the forum's been really interesting about just general ways to promote it, because it sparked this whole debate about how do we grow the game. Because obviously we're not in the position of Mantic or Games Workshop or Mears, where you've got a miniature line that you can promote with a rule set, and you're kind of providing everything for the people. There's still a lot of individuality involved in the hobby, which is a good thing. I mean, we talked about that in the last podcast about the hobbying side of things.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make it particularly easy to get people involved. So it's kind of sparked this whole debate. So, what do you think? Like, what do you see as the best ways for us to get more people in?
I think you really need proactive people in these groups that are willing to put the time in, and it is a big investment with regards to time and effort, but I think doing things like going to other gaming groups and, bringing a couple of armies, bringing some information and just saying, maybe just letting people know that you're going to be there and say, we're coming along. If anyone wants to, give the game a go, we'll take you through it if you want to give it a try.
Yeah.
I think most places in the UK, there's quite a good tradition of wargaming clubs. So if you kind of think geographically, like certainly within Scotland, you've got gaming groups in Dundee, Stirling, Edinburgh, Ayrshire, Lanarkshire. I mean, these are all potential pools of people that, you could get into ninth. Most of these places have people that have at some point in their gaming career played Warhammer or other fantasy games. So I think you would ideally want a group of people just to kind of be visiting these sites and bringing Ninth Age along and trying to get people involved that way. I think the online presence that we've got is very good. Having rules and different kind of resources on hand for free is like fantastic.
Yeah.
But that only gets you so far. I mean, if you've never heard of Ninth, then all that's for nothing. You need someone to say, there's a game out there called Ninth Age and this is how you play. Obviously, there's quite a good growing group of people doing podcasts and they're doing battle reports and stuff, which is very good. But at the end of the day, you need people playing it in all these different places to draw people in. I mean, we're at Common Ground at least twice a month. I mean, there's guys there that go during the week. I mean, we're probably there more than twice a month. And yet, over the course of 12 months, we've maybe grew by 5 people, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's the amount of time it seems to take. So the longer we go without actually investing in this as a strategy, I think that's what's going to take the time to grow the game. Because you're always going to have people coming, but you're always going to have people leaving the game.
Yep.
So you need to be making that conscious effort. So I think the biggest thing is really having people involved that are proactive and that are willing to kind of turn up and put in face time with people and just try and get them involved in the game at the end of the day.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree.
If you were in charge, what would you be doing, do you think?
I mean, it's hard because, it all comes back to this. It's still a voluntary organisation. It's still a voluntary project.
Yeah.
So the biggest problem the project has is staffing. 100% that's the biggest issue. It's just that there's not enough bodies to do everything that needs done. So to have another team set up, just for promotion is, it would be the ideal situation. But that's more bodies you need, and it's more time investment that you're asking people to do. So I agree. I think it falls to people within existing gaming groups that are playing Ninth to really, take it upon themselves to promote it. Like what we're doing. And I know that Jack Austin's been on, because he's the head of the community engagement team, and he's talking about, trying to organise a stall at Salute next year, which is the UK's biggest gaming show. So I think there's stuff happening now, which is good to see. I think we just need to continue doing it. And I mean, I've got no doubt there's people playing Ninth that aren't affiliated. There'll be guys playing in, their homes or playing at clubs and have no interest in playing. Yeah, I mean, some of them will have no interest in getting involved with, kind of the project as a whole, which is fine. But I think there's definitely people out there that are interested, that just, they need the opportunity to get involved. I mean, if you look at the map on the forum, just the amount of registered users across the UK is massive. Mm-hmm. And, that's much bigger than the actual active playing base that we know of. So I think it's just so important that we keep trying to get new people in, and we keep doing stuff like demo games and club nights, and, even stuff like if your club's meeting regularly, keep on putting out on Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that. Get people knowing, because it's just about providing an opportunity to come along. One of our newest members, Fraz, he lives in Glasgow. He didn't play 8th edition, I don't think. He's kind of brand new. I think he maybe had some models and stuff, but he never actually actively played. And now he's an active member of the team, and he's coming along and playing regularly. And it was just the opportunity. He found us through the website, the forum. He got in contact with us. He's coming along to monthly meets now. Now he's part of the team. And I think just clubs across the UK and, across the world need to keep on doing that, because that's how you get people involved.
That's reliant on those teams, putting in the effort to have an online presence.
Yeah.
Because we've got Twitter, we've got a Facebook page. Obviously, I'd say for the most part, most of the people in our group are all fairly active on the forums. So we do have that kind of online presence, so people know that there's that as a resource, that, if they're interested too, that, there's someone to contact. So
yeah,
I think it is, again, it kind of comes down to individuals Because as you say, there's probably a lot of people just playing, and they're playing for fun, and they're not interested in taking it further than that. They don't need to be on the forums like as much as we are. It's hard. I would love to say in the next 12 months that we get another 6 to 8 players. Like, it'd be great to say, oh, there's 20 people in our club that play Ninth Age regularly. And I think that's achievable. I mean, there's certainly been people that have reached out to us that they've said that they're interested. It's maybe going to take them a little bit of time to get to the point where they can play from a wargaming perspective. So they're still buying things and learning to paint, etc.
Which is all part of the process. Yeah, you've got to help those people get in it. Yeah.
And we've had people, even from abroad to say, oh, they're going to be moving to Scotland at some point, and they're definitely going to look us up when they do come over and stuff. So it's good. It's kind of an exciting time to be in the hobby in the sense that because it is growing and it's always developing, and you can kind of be involved with it. So I suppose just to kind of echo what you were saying, if people are listening and they've maybe considered getting more involved in the hobby, then they should definitely try and reach out to people and say, I'm willing to help, even if it's within a fairly small capacity. It all adds up. So
yeah, 100%.
Like I say, they're always looking for new people.
And I think it's really important that, you're always going to get guys that have, don't want any part of that, and they just want to play the game, which is 100% fine. People have very limited free time, so if they just want to do that, it's cool. But I think clubs especially need to be promoting the game, because it's not fully, selfless act. You get the positive that you're getting more people to play against, you're expanding your local scene, and that's the only way the scenes grow. And if you don't do that, scenes will start dwindling. And I think we've been able to see that in a number of places over in the States, where I don't think clubs have been actively promoting the game like that. They've just kind of been expecting people who played 8th to keep on playing this. So we're getting to the stage now where it's not the same game as 8th. There's huge similarities, let's be serious, but it is a different game, and we've got to start treating it like a separate game, and got to start advertising it as that, and getting more people involved, and getting people who have no pre-existing connection to old fantasy to get them on and get them in and playing.
Yeah, that's effectively the future of the game, is brand new players.
Yep.
So I guess that's a separate question, is do you think that requires a specific kind of method to kind of bring these people in? Do you think you have to kind of go about it differently?
I don't know. I think the general appeal for rank and file fantasy is probably our biggest boon, because it's only really us and Mantic that do it like that. You've got Dragon Rampant, but it's much smaller scale. I can't off the top of my head think of anything else. Even stuff like, I've thought about this a lot, like Warhammer Total War, when it came out, was hugely successful.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that was due to players who played the tabletop version, they've gone to Age of Sigmar, and they missed that kind of massed rank and file. And there must have been lots of people who picked up that game and go, oh, that's really cool, I'll check out this thing, and then they find out it's Age of Sigmar, and it's not the same thing, and maybe that disconnected them. So I think there must be a massive pool out there who are interested in the general concept of the game. It's just advertising to them that this exists, and that there's a big player base, and that you can get involved, and look, the rules are free, the army book's free, you can use any models you want. Look at this cool new company that's in Spain that are selling these lovely figures much cheaper than other large companies which will remain nameless. So yeah, I think it just goes full circle to what we were saying. We need to be more active as a community, I think. And yes, that's going to fall to individuals to really pick up the slack and do a lot of the legwork, but we still get something out of it at the end of the day. We're getting more players in.
Absolutely. I think we are involved to the degree that which we are involved because we enjoy it.
Yeah.
And we're obviously getting something out of it. So it's, for all that it's, it takes a lot of time away from doing other things, it's worth it at the end of the day. Whether that be putting time into organising events, or if you're involved with a particular team and you're designing something, or you're providing feedback. I think there's obviously a lot of opportunities, and I dare say there will be new teams that will be popping up in the future within the project, which will probably be more geared towards the kind of PR and development and promotion of the game.
Yeah.
Which is quite exciting. I think that'll be cool. I think as well, being in a smaller country like what we are doesn't necessarily help. How many players do you think they've got down in England, say? Hundreds?
Yeah, because there's so many casual players that don't want anything to do with the tournament scene, which is absolutely fine. But if you look at even like the English Championship, 76 players, at least 90% of them are English players. So if your active tournament scene is like that, that's pretty good.
But I think this is it. I think like what I was saying about you've kind of got your different areas, your different clubs, if you can kind of develop a ninth age scene within each, even if you've got only 5 or 6 people that play that game, but you've maybe got 6 or 7 clubs. So of that, say 35 to 40 players, you can maybe get one player from each club that is interested at playing at that higher level. Then that's when you can start actually building a more competitive tournament scene.
Yeah.
Obviously, England being a different, a bigger country, and again having a good kind of tradition of wargaming clubs to kind of support, these games as they arise, I think is very good.
Yeah, I mean, Scotland being the size it is both a good thing and a bad thing for us. It's a good thing in that we can kind of promote across the country, really. I mean, we've had messages from a couple guys up in Inverness who are, really interested in playing, but the unfortunate thing is that Inverness is very far away, and it's not feasible for them to come down regularly to play, which is a shame. But really, that is the limit of. I mean, because everywhere below Inverness is kind of accessible to us because we're kind of central.
Yeah, I would love it in the next 12 months if we could say there's like even 3 clubs that all have people that are playing ninth age, like independently of one another, that all feed into one another when it comes to bigger events. Because we've kind of got that. I mean, there's guys in Glasgow that sometimes play in the Glasgow clubs, and there's the guys through in Stirling, and then you're yourself in Falkirk. But it's just the time it takes to get people into the game, especially if you're trying to convince people to give it a go, because a lot of people are playing. I mean, I only play ninth age. Other people are playing maybe like 5 or 6 different systems.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard. You've got to try and convince people to give it time, and obviously no one has as much hobby time as they want to have. So that can maybe be a hard sell at times.
Yeah, and there's definitely an element of. I mean, this is not an easy game to pick up and learn. I think this is a game that rewards practice and really, focusing on it. So it's not like Kings of War where you can kind of rock up on a club night, have a game in a couple hours and go home and not really have to worry about it. You don't really have to. Not this isn't ripping into Mantic or Kings of War. It's a good system, but it's a simple system in comparison to ninth age. So there will be guys that don't want to have that extra hassle, that aren't interested in that, and they want something like Kings of War that they can just rock up and play, which is absolutely fair enough. But I think there's definitely players out there that want to play something like ninth age that just need the opportunity. That's where it just comes back to advertising that.
Yeah, like you say, it maybe appeals to a certain type of person. God knows I've tried to get my girlfriend into, or my fiance rather, into playing the game, and yeah, it's tough.
See, this will be a good experiment for when we get the girls on.
So we should say that we've got a pretty cool idea in mind for a future episode where we kind of talk about the project in relation with our better halves.
Yeah.
And kind of through their eyes and what they think of it all. So that'll be good fun, I think.
The Widows of Ninth Age. So, yeah, if you guys are listening and you, just in relation to that episode, because if you have any questions you want to ask, so what we'll be doing is we'll get the girls on and we've already got some questions. We'll be putting the questions to them and seeing what the responses are.
Absolutely. So either questions for them from people in the hobby, or questions from people with other halves. That
100%. Yeah.
If you want to submit something for either us or the girls to answer, because it's a real shame that there's not more girls in the hobby.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of girls that paint and model and things like that.
Yeah.
But the transition onto the gaming scene isn't great.
No.
And I think wargaming in particular doesn't have a particularly sexy appeal. So.
Yeah, I think because I don't know if it's like a vicious circle, because it is fairly like male dominated. That in of itself can be a bit of a barrier.
Yeah.
And the gaming's side of it aside, I think that alone is probably the contributing factor towards why maybe women just aren't as interested. Like, I think if you had 3 or 4 girls at your club, then it's going to be so much easier for other women to be interested, because they can maybe relate to it a little bit easier, because there's other people playing it that maybe have the same kind of sensibilities. But we won't talk about that too much just now, because that's kind of a spoiler for future episodes. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be fun. A part of me's dreading it a little bit, because I'm like, I really don't want Laura to start saying stuff. I'm like, God, Laura, stop. Like, This isn't an episode for, telling people shit I don't really want people to know.
I told Jordan, like, obviously, I asked her if she wanted to do it. She said yes, and that was her first thing. She was like, "Oh, I'm going to say this on it." Like, that's not
really.
It's not really the idea behind it, Jess. So it will be eventful either way.
I'm going to edit it, obviously. I edit all episodes, so it's fine. I can just, cut anything I don't want actually out there, so it's fine.
They agreed with everything.
It's just going to be us, putting on, female voices.
You should definitely buy more figures. Thank you, honey. Right, so do you have any kind of final thoughts on the promoting side of things? I think one thing that we haven't mentioned is company support.
I think that's coming. I think the idea behind kind of pre-made starter boxes for people that want to play 9th that they can buy, and it'll maybe have an army or two in it that they can at least maybe play at the kind of 1500 point level, get to grips with the rules and such, kind of use some of the starter army lists that have been posted. Interestingly, that was in the news feed recently, after I was talking about it on the last episode, that there's some online resources for people to look at in relation to Universal Battle. There's some pre-made armies on there for people that want to learn the game.
That's very cool.
Yeah, so check that out if you're interested. Details are on the 9th Age website. But yeah, I think that'll be a big deal. Actually having something physical that you can buy that will have models in it that will make it easier for people that actually want to start playing the game.
Absolutely.
I mean, that to a degree takes away some of the flexibility that you've got for playing what you want to play with regards to minis, but for people that aren't as interested in that, and certainly for just learning, I think it's a really useful thing.
Yeah, and then if someone buys a starter set and they play the starter set with their pal and they get really into it, and then they're like, actually I don't want to play dwarves because I'm a decent human being, I'd like to try something else. So there's still, it's like what we were talking with Simon and Deej about. It's a gateway, and
sure.
I think it's the kind of gateway that the project's probably lacking just now. So hopefully that has a good effect. And I've seen some of the TMS stuff with their starter set. It looks very cool, because you're getting your Kingdom Equity and then Undying Dynasties, and you get some terrain bits and stuff like that. So quietly optimistic about that, because I think that's definitely something that the project as a whole needs to be pursuing as well.
Yeah, and I think as well as these companies themselves start becoming more popular, that will benefit the 9th Age.
Yeah, it's symbiotic, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they'll do very well off the back of the project because people are promoting them because they're obviously investing their company in the project. So I think as people become more familiar with places like Avatars of War and TMS, Small Miniatures, these kind of companies, then I think the 9th Age will similarly benefit. So
yeah, and more like every tournament I go to now, there's more and more kind of different miniature companies on display, which is really good to see.
Definitely.
Right, so I guess we should wrap it up. So obviously Carronade is coming up. It's on the 12th of May. So if you're listening to this and you're in the area, come on down. Please, if you listen to this, come and say hi to us. Come and have a chat. Have a shot at the scenario. You'll probably do much better than either Paul and I will be doing.
Probably.
So we probably thank you for your luck. So come see us. That'd be really cool to see people. Apart from that, we have Strife coming up.
Yep, so that's, I want to say the 14th of July, Saturday, second Saturday of the month. That's the first Wildlings Run 9th Age event of the year. So it's a one-day singles tournament, 3 games, 4,500 points. The pack isn't up yet, but it will be very soon. But most of the details you can find in the tournament thread under Stravel and Strife 2018. We've still got about 6 or 7 spots left open, so if you want to come along, it would be great to see you. We're all a bunch of nice individuals who are up for having a good time, throwing some dice, so please come along. And we'll be going and getting a beer and stuff after it, so even if you just like beer, come along. It'll be fun. If you're a bit of an alcoholic, it's fine. We're more than happy to indulge. And we've got good tournament support as well, so we'll be making a few more announcements with regards to additional companies which are on board, but so far we've got Deep Cut Studios and we've got Spellcrow sponsoring the event. We've also got Reaper Minis, and we also have Creature Caster, which have recently signed up as well. If you're not familiar with Creature Caster, they've got some amazing
kind of monstrous minis you can check out. Good for Demon Legions, Warriors. They've got some Sylvan Elf stuff.
A lot of cool dragons.
Yeah, dragons of all various sizes. So check them out. They're going to be sponsoring the event. So if you want to get your hands on some free creature caster stuff, then you should definitely sign up.
100%. Just to give a shout out to upcoming events, we've got Call to War and Call to Paint on the 5th and 6th of May. If you're going to that, you'll need to, I think actually that might have closed for tickets, but you can definitely give Will a shout if you're interested. So that's Will Goodwin that's organising that. There's also the Vale Renegades Open in Cardiff on the 16th and 17th of June. I think they've got about 26 people, I think last time I checked they had.
Yeah.
And the Vale guys are all really good guys. I was talking to Ollie down at TEC. Really standout guys, good laugh. So if you're in the area and you fancy that, definitely head along. It'll be a good time. And then we're getting in the ETC kind of territory after that. I know that there is a tournament in Midlands in August, I believe, which is going to run parallel to the ETC. Then it's the ETC itself, and then we'll have Siege in the autumn.
So lots of tournaments as always.
Lots of tournaments, and of course we'll be down at the at Common Ground. So if anyone's around and fancies coming on down, you can probably just get us there. There's normally people there almost every week.
Yeah, pretty much.
Or you can get us on Facebook at Scottish Wildlings, or at Twitter at Scottish Ninth Age, or you can drop us an email at scottishwildlings@gmail.com. And if you've got any questions for the upcoming prerequisite to divorce and breakup, you can fire them in, and we'll save up all those questions and ask the girls when they come on in a future episode.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we don't get a lot of questions submitted, which is fair enough. But I think for that particular episode, I think it would be really good to get some on. I think that would make it even more fun than I think it's going to be. So
absolutely, and I'll make the claim right now. I'll read out any question that you send.
Dangerous.
That's true. I'll do it.
I don't know.
Whether Paul I know. I'm looking at you, Tommy. Whether Paul edits that question out is another matter, but I'll certainly read it out.
Yeah, it'll definitely happen.
Yeah, that'll be good fun. I know that Felix and Deej have been saving up questions to send in. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we'll certainly have a few.
Cool. That's good.
So that's it from us, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Yeah, take it easy, guys.